Let's talk about the life of a modern content creator. But let's look at it through a really old lens, the Greek myth of Sisyphus. You know, the guy with the boulder? It's a story about an endless, kind of pointless seeming struggle. And hey, if you've ever tried to build something online, that might just sound a little, familiar. I want to start with just one number. That's it, 99%. And that number, it kind of hangs over this entire creative world we've built on the internet. So what is this 99%? Well, that's the percentage of creators who start a YouTube channel and just never really make it. They never get what you or I would call real success. They just don't break through. Which brings us to the big question, right? The whole reason we're here. When you know the odds are that stacked against you, why in the world would anyone even bother to start? Why keep pushing that upload button? Okay, so before we get to the why, let's really get a sense of just how steep this climb actually is. This is the modern-day version of Sisyphus's boulder. Just look at these numbers. It's insane. The odds just fall off a cliff at every single stage. Hitting 1,000 subscribers, fewer than 10% of channels ever get there. Getting monetized, that's less than 6%. And 1 million subs, wow, 0.05%. That's not even a long shot. It's practically a statistical impossibility. The mountain is very, very real. So for anyone who needs a quick refresher, Sisyphus was this super clever king in Greek mythology who actually tricked the gods a couple of times to cheat death. As punishment, they didn't give him pain. Oh no, they gave him something much worse. Futility, an endless task, a goal he could never ever reach. Sound familiar? You create, you upload, you check the stats, just to wake up and do it all over again tomorrow. So if the climb is basically impossible for almost everyone, how does anyone make it to the top? Well, let's look at what we can learn from the people who've actually done it. They've mastered the art of pushing the boulder. And we have to start with this piece of, well, brutally honest advice from MrBeast. He basically says the biggest thing holding you back isn't the algorithm. It's you. It's your own delusion that you're already great. So step one to making good videos, you have to accept that your first videos are going to be terrible. This leads to a really powerful framework. Let's call it the 100 video gauntlet. I mean, MrBeast himself uploaded 100 videos before he even got to 1,000 subscribers. The goal isn't to go viral on video 3. The goal is to learn, to get just a tiny bit better, 1% better with every single upload. Your editing, your titles, your storytelling, something. Okay, so you're focused on improving. But improving what? The 80-20 rule is a perfect guide here. You know, the idea that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your work. On YouTube, that critical 20% is your packaging. It's the core idea, the title, the thumbnail, and that first 30-second hook. If you don't nail those, literally nothing else you do in the video matters. And this, right here, this is the ultimate mindset shift. Stop trying to figure out some mysterious machine. Start trying to figure out people. So the algorithm didn't like my video becomes the audience didn't like my video. See, it's not about code. It's about psychology. It's about what makes humans click. All right, so we have a roadmap for the how. But that just makes the why question even bigger, doesn't it? I mean, if this is the level of work it takes for a 0.05% shot at the top, why would any sane person even bother? To answer that, we have to go deeper than just YouTube tips and tricks. We've actually got to get into some philosophy, specifically from a guy named Albert Camus, who wrestled with this exact kind of question his whole life. So this is the bombshell opening line to Camus' most famous essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. And what he's saying is once you truly, honestly face the fact that the universe doesn't really care about you or your search for meaning, you first have to answer a fundamental question. Is life even worth living? Camus has a name for this clash. He calls it the absurd. It's that feeling you get, that friction between our desperate human need for things to matter and a universe that just gives us silent, cold, hard data in return. It's our passion versus the analytics page. So when you're faced with this absurd reality, Camus says you have two choices. You can commit what he calls philosophical suicide. That's the easy way out, chasing shortcuts, buying subscribers, believing in so-called algorithm hacks. Or you can rebel. You can look that 99% failure rate right in the eye and choose to do the hard, conscious, meaningful work anyway. So how do you actually live in that state of rebellion? Well, this is the really beautiful twist in Camus's whole idea. It's about finding meaning, not in spite of the struggle, but because of it. This is the knockout punch at the end of his essay. Camus argues that in that moment when Sisyphus is walking back down the hill to get his boulder again, he's totally free. He knows his fate, he's fully conscious of it, and by choosing to turn around and push that rock again, he finds his meaning right there, in the act itself. He becomes the master of his own pointless task. And this is where the practical advice and the deep philosophy just click together perfectly. The Creator's Rebellion isn't about the plaque for 1 million subscribers. It's about finding real joy in that 1% improvement you made on video number 57. It's about mastering your craft as an act of defiance against the terrible odds. It's celebrating that first comment from a stranger, because the process is the whole point. You know, in a world that feels dominated by algorithms and impossible odds, just choosing to create, to improve, to push your own boulder with your eyes wide open, well, that's an act of rebellion. It's an act of true freedom. But there's one last kind of disturbing twist to the story. We've been talking about the struggle for an audience, but what if that audience isn't even real? This is the basic idea behind something called the dead internet theory. It's this growing suspicion that the living, breathing internet we thought we knew is quietly being replaced by a ghost town of AI bots, all just talking to each other, manipulating everything. And before you just dismiss that as a crazy conspiracy theory, listen to this. This is a real quote from an AI chatbot built by Meta describing itself. It openly said it was a fictional persona built to manipulate emotional connection. The ghosts in the machine are literally telling us what they are. Which leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question. If Sisyphus gets to the top of his hill and he looks down and sees not a real world but just a simulation, does his struggles still mean anything? If the audience is becoming an illusion, who are you really pushing the boulder for?